Immerse in the profound wisdom of the Shandilya Bhakti Sutras, ancient verses, revered as a pinnacle of devotion and spiritual awareness. Under the guidance of His Holiness Swami Jyotirmayananda, plunge into the infinite ocean of this revered scripture. Discover its hidden truths. Embrace its transformative power. Awaken to new realms of divine love and spiritual awareness. The depths are calling. The deeper you dive, the more treasures you'll discover. And now, Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda.
Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Om. Adorations to Lord Krishna, the preceptor of the universe, destroyer of the forces of darkness, and bestower of immortality. And adorations to the Blessed Self in all of Shandilya Bhakti Sutras, the Sutra number 45. I'm reiterating this Sutra because of its importance. The Sutra says, Dveshadayastu naivam. The sages are very miserly in their words. Few words packed up with meaning. It means hatred, etc. are not so, not kosher. Various characteristics of devotion have been described before, but some people become a little confused when they read scriptures where personalities like Shishupal, terrible personality, always giving trouble, Ravana, source of all misery, and when they die at the hands of Rama or Krishna, he describes the light flashes from them as he enters into Ram. The idea is, why don't we follow that example? Ravana hated Rama, and all through hatred was predominant in their mind. Led by hatred, they became exceedingly concentrated on God. If you become concentrated on God, you will attain God. So the answer to the question is, are you a demon that will choose to develop hatred towards God? Hatred is not normal. All the descriptions of demons being killed are highly mystical. Anger, hate, greed, all these are demons within. Demon simply implies that what could have been divine, as electricity flows in a proper way, it is divine. When it gets short-circuited, demons begin to spark up from different, wherever the electrical connections are. Anger, hate, etc. are short-circuited energy, divine energy within you. Your heart longs for blossoming with all divine qualities. Developing divine qualities is intrinsic, it's normal. It is what you are. Goodness is what you are. Any negative that has settled in your mind is extraneous, artificial. The project of your spiritual movement is to negate the negative qualities. A negation that should not imply a tremendous force. All that you have to do is turn the mind to God with the embodiment of love, embodiment of all that is positive. He is the source of all divine qualities. So as you go on removing negative within you, the divine within you begins to manifest. So on the path of devotion, therefore, there is no place for negative qualities. In the Ramayana, an interesting point is brought out. Tushidasi says that souls in the world, they are caught in a conspiracy of little gods in a highly mystic way. The Puranas, scriptures describe that souls have entered into a world which is very complex, and there's constant conspiracy against every soul. As long as you are unenlightened, you are in that conspiracy. There are sixfold ingredients of conspiracy. It's called Shadyantra. In Hindi, people say Shadyantra. They don't know what Shad means. Shad means six. And what are those six? First, prapanch. The world is kind of a marshy land. Satchidananda, three ingredients, they are actually three attributes of Brahman. Sat, Chit, Ananda. That's the reality behind the world. On that reality, a river has been formed, a mirage. And mirage has gathered some swampy land. Souls get caught into that swamp and begin to sink. So that's first prapanch. Why punch? Five again there? Sat, Chit, Ananda, names and forms. Names and forms, they relate to your limited mind. You are always driven by problems created by names and forms. The underlying reality is unaffected. All changes you study, they are studied by your conditioned mind, by your limited senses, in a state of ignorance. Just like all things that you experience in your dream, they are illusory. But even in your dream, you can enter into a river and get caught into a swamp. You don't like swamp, it's crocodile. That's prapanch. There's a broad understanding of the predicament of entering into the world process. Next is Maya. Maya is magic. Maya is normal. Philosophically, is the illusory power of God, the power of illusion. But here in this context is magic. Most things are viewed by your mind in a deluded way. Therefore, objects assert a great power over a person. They don't have that power. Gold has no power. Diamonds have no power. But turn to the pages of history, how many people are killed, destroyed, tormented because of it. And ask the diamond, why did you do it? That's Maya. Next, Bhaya, fear. Fear is a predominant negative quality. There's always fear of death. Rajiva term says abhinivesh klesha. You have experienced fear, not in one life. If you are using mathematics, try to figure out when did the world begin. Then mathematics is poor. Just to understand, there have been millions and millions of embodiments. In each embodiment, when the spirit moves from one body to another, it's always a tragic experience. Some embodiments might be easy. Sometimes people swept by the flood and they don't even know that they're dead. Sometimes dying process can be easier than living process. These things are not easy for mind to grasp. When you see a dying person, all relatives come together, they grieve. But the dying person, once death occurs, becomes exceedingly relaxed. If you are really interested in the person's experience, you should feel relaxed. But that doesn't happen. Whom are you grieving for? You're grieving for yourself. That you won't have that support, that relation. You're not really grieving for the soul. But yet the mind says how miserable it was for the soul. He would have lived, but he is dead. You must know that it is in such an atmosphere, I can say that. Similarly, when the soul comes into the world, the experience of an infant coming into the world is terrible, shocking. And therefore, coming into the world is announced by crying of the baby. But everybody laughs, enjoys. See, you come into the world of Shadyantra. Conspiracy is going on. When you cry, people are quite relaxed. They can't teach us. When we are peacefully moved away from all this complexity of the body and nerves, and people grieve. That gives you the idea of prapancha, the Shadyantra. So the Bhaya, fear is there because in every embodiment, even actual death is not a painful situation, but the imagination, I'm going to die, that haunts a person. And the more identified you are with the body, greater is that fear. Identity with body implies also a tremendous dependence on bodily relatives. The whole world around you is viewed on the basis of the body at the general level. So there is terrible sense of fear that your mind has to deal with. And when you entertain fear, it doesn't do any good to you at all. Diminishing your power, restricting your free will, clouding your reason. What has to happen will happen. Transient things will not stay permanent. Clouds that have gathered in the sky, they move away. Mist disperses. Dewdrops clinging on the leaves, they must move away. Your body, mind complex. Your personality in the world of time and space is something very little. What you are is beyond your imagination. Think of a drop clinging to a leaf, and that drop is shining. The shining aspect in the drop is the sun. The sun will not move away, but the drop will. Your mind has to handle both. In the beginning, your mind emerges out of the drop aspect and is concerned, how long can I sit so relaxed on such a wonderful, stable situation? To the little mind, the leaf is quite stable. You think I'm exaggerating? Think of your predicament on the Earth planet. Earth planet is not even like a steady like a leaf, it is moving. And yet, the spirit that shines within you is the controller of not only the Earth planet, but the entire universe. It is omniscient, omnipotent, Therefore, as mind turns to God, fearlessness must develop. And there is amazing result if one becomes free of stress caused by fear, insecurity. It creates lots of diffidence. Next point is Bhram. Bhram is delusion. You are coming in the early morning, it's not yet, the mist has not lifted yet. There is twilight type of situation. As you come, look at a house you are going to pass by, and there is a terrible dog there. Its tongue is out, teeth are shining, and it is of a different quality of dog. It can be a bulldog or something of that nature. You are exceedingly frightened. In your fright, you become frozen. But fortunately, you are frozen because you look on and you see that the dog doesn't move. So you realize the dog is nothing but stone. Stone, a statue of a dog. Immediately, fear moves away. But until you have that clearer vision, there is Bhram. There is a deluded vision. And that applies all experiences of human beings. There is a Bhram aspect behind it because all your senses are limited. Your mental capacity is conditioned. Again, from relative point of view, there is room for a progressive movement. If you have, say, 90% fear, then you can get to 80% fear, you can get to 70% fear. So gradually you can move away. There is always two processes, vidya and avidya. As you move with satsanga, good association, devotion, spirituality, you begin to move away from negative and gradually enter into positive process. The next point is called A-rati. A is a negative word, like ahimsa. Rati means a life of great joy. So much you are completely swept by your joy in a positive way. And it is in the form of being attached to God. God becomes the source of all types of happiness. And there is a constant experience of divine touch. But if you are in prapancha, that doesn't occur within you. You repeat mantras, have even satsanga and little meditation. And on that day you complain, I have terrible headache. This is not for me. Let those people go into satsanga or go. Not for me. If that's prapancha, the mind has become so gross that the spiritual things are not tasty. Lastly, Ucchātan. Ucchātan, your mind has already made up its mind, very profound way. That God doesn't exist. Spirituality is just idle talks. It's all unscientific. All this entire Shadyantra has to dissolve as your mind begins to move towards God. And that's a profound project to discover through your mind, through the mind is moving towards God, amazing expansion of the self. I'll just tell you about Meera's bhajan, one of the songs Meera says, Ram Naam Ras Pijay Manua. O mind, enjoy the taste of divine name Rama. Tajku Sang Satsang Bhaitnik. Avoid wrong associations. Get into good association. Satsanga. Hari Charcha sun lijay. And listen to the talks that relate to God, that relate to spirituality. Kam, Krodh, Mad, Lobha, Moha ko baha chitta so dijay. Kamas, desires that are perverted, anger, pride, greed, delusion, all these are called impurities. The Sanskrit word is mala. Mala blocks your vision. It's like you want to see your face in a mirror and mirror has a lot of dust over it. Repetition of divine name, if you become interested in, as japa begins to give you a sense of profounder joy, the joy seeps into that mind like nectarine rays. And all these negative qualities move away from you. Meera ke Prabhu Girdhar Nagar, tahi ke rang mein bhijay. Your mind that has been colored by these Shadyantras, that mind now is colored by God's presence. In the next sutra, Tadvakya Shesha Pradurbhaveshwapi Swa Sa. That devotion is the highest, even when directed to the incarnations of God. Because this is known from the remainder of the sentence that relates to a particular context in the Gita. The sutra points to certain statements in the Gita, and I will give you that what it implies. Gita chapter 7, verse 16. Chaturvidha bhajante mam janaha sukritiro arjuna artho jigyasur jnani cha bharatarshava. O best of the Bharatas, referring to Arjuna, there are 4 types of virtuous devotees who worship me. Artha means distressed. You turn your mind to God when you are in distress. Artharthi, you turn your mind when you are desirous of some gain, wealth, recognition, material success, even passing an examination. Jignasu, third type of devotee. You turn your mind to God because you want to understand. Scriptures say the world is like a snake on the rope. But you have seen so many ropes and so many snakes. How to understand it in a profound way? I'm just giving simpler illustration. So you pray to God, oh God, give me, allow my mind to understand. And let it not, the knowledge should not stay with me in an intellectual way. Intellectually, I've come to understand all this in God. But it doesn't help. So you turn to God for deeper insight, to be able to assimilate his spiritual teaching. That's called jignasu. And the last one is called jnani. Jnani, in whom mind has clarity. Intellect has become very subtle. And therefore, there is a constant awareness, knowledge that God is the reality in me. I am a ray. He is the whole source. To give you in a little broader way of understanding. Your movement towards God is in different, relating to different aspects of your personality. When you turn your mind to karma, action, in that level, your prayer is directed towards, may I have resources for doing my duty. You are A-rati. A-rati means you are turning to a process where your action will become a kind of a yoga. And that's a part of your life that you cannot reject. Hand aspect of your personality. Developing the hand aspect means to become an A-rati bhakta. The head aspect of your personality is jigyasu. It always wants to know. Developing your intellect. What I'm trying to tell you is the spiritual movement is an integral process. In that process, action aspect of your personality relates to all the duties that you have to do, the way you have to live in the world day by day, and how to do it. All that is implied. Now, next point, you need to have resources, material resources, psychological resources. Many resources have to be there to help you. When your mind is focused on the resources, then you are A-rati bhakta. And when your mind becomes involved in understanding, then you are jigyasu bhakta. But when your heart becomes involved with profound sentiment, then you become artha bhakta. A perfect devotee is one in whom all these three develop and blend: hand, heart, head. Karma, devotion, and the path of wisdom. Udara sarva evaite jnani tvatmaiva me matam asthitah sahyuktatma mame vanuttamam gatim. All these four types of devotees are noble indeed. However, I consider the man of wisdom as my very self. For with his mind unwaveringly established in me, he considers me as the highest goal. In other words, the highest attainment depends upon integration of your personality. Integration you have to understand in a proper way. By pursuing integral yoga, you are not one-sided in your spiritual movement. Sometimes people, as parents, become one-sided. You suddenly develop the idea meditation is wonderful, Kundalini yoga is wonderful. So, dispense with daily duties. You can do so for a short time as a kind of a, but never go to extreme. When you take extreme measure, then a part of your personality remains imperfect. A person living in a far away from practical world, in an ideal ashram, if you move away from the world, you are given work to do. Intensive work, more than what you left behind. If that situation is not there, then you are simply depending upon your own judgment of yourself. Having stayed in the ashram for a month or so, you feel, oh, I'm already enlightened. You woke up in the morning and see Kundalini is sending out flashes of light in your spine. And you feel that you have attained Kundalini. I'm just trying to dramatize that how one-sided movement becomes defective. You may feel intellectually, for example, you sit with books or dealing with highest philosophy and go on studying day and night. Of course, you will know much more than many Vedantins who have gone through. But all that becomes intellectual. And again, you can become devotee of God and can shed tears when you hear Rama going into the forest. He has been separated from Sita, how the whole nature is suffering because of his grief. Your heart may flow, but intellect refuses to understand that Rama is same as Shiva, Shiva is same as Durga Devi, or Shiva is same as Jesus. Heart is big, but intellect is small. The error has to be avoided. You shouldn't be big-hearted. You should also, along with the heart, your intellect must be clarified. It must be transparent. Along with it, your action must be great. Should be skilled in performing your duty. In brief, if you are practicing karma yoga action, along with it, japa, meditation, etc., devotion, along with it, reflection, meditation, serve, love, meditate, realize, serve, karma yoga, love, bhakti yoga, meditate, that relates to Raja Yoga, as well as reflecting, practice of reflection by studying Vedantic scriptures. Then, as a result of this, you attain liberation, realization. If you are not harmonized in your personality, too much of a head, very little of a hand, look like crabs. Too much of a heart, very little of a hand, very little of a head. If that is so, then it may appear you have done tremendous practice, tremendous japa or austerity. But what you aim at is living your life in such a way that is harmonized day by day. May not be ideally harmonized, but that should be your goal, day by day. And thereby, every part of your personality develops in a profound way. In the world of action, you become charitable, a righteous personality, doing your duties elegantly, efficiently, dexterously. And in the world of good feeling, you can allow the aroma of goodwill to emanate from your heart. In the world of thinking, your intellect should be exceedingly bright, clear to understand the predicament in which everybody is. That is, to understand the Maya aspect that has involved the world. When you develop or when you practice integral yoga, there is advantage and disadvantage. I'm speaking in a figurative language. Advantage is always. The disadvantage is you don't have thrilling experience. Generally, people have the idea, if I practice spirituality, one day I will be seated and suddenly something will appear before me. God will appear and say, I'm very pleased with you, ask what you want. Or, if that may not happen, but We're looking at the picture of God and God smiles at it. Quite thrilling. Or something happens externally. Even a bird comes at the window to start speaking Sanskrit words. I'm not underestimating spiritual experience that people have. Lots of, I'm not underestimating them. But that is not your goal. People who have them, God has planned to encourage them. If you do good works, Mother pats on your back. Patting on the back is not the goal. All experiences are patting on your back. They are not your goal. If you are practicing integral yoga, there is very little of patting. There is a greater joy of God directs your movement. You do amazing attainment. Amazing changes go on occurring in you. And sometimes you hardly notice. Say, I have been practicing and nothing happened to me. You look at the people who practice yoga, etc., and hear some exciting things they have to say. But if you are practicing in a profound way, your mind is after an amazing discovery. The entire world is filled with God. It's not just a little butterfly jumping up and speaking out loudly. You are after ocean of thrill if you have integral you. If you don't, then you have waves of thrill. Antavat tu phalam tesham tad bhavatyalpamedhasam devan devayajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. Yet Gita introduces a statement that confuses people. Those worshippers of other gods possessing dull intellect attain finite results. The worshippers of these deities, these gods, go to them, while those who worship me, they come to me. This becomes a basis for misunderstanding. People who are devotee of Krishna, they begin to say, all other gods are other gods. And that's what Krishna said. So don't go to other gods, come to me. If you go to other gods, you get little things. Come to me and I will go back. To give you in a very simple way, direct way. As long as your concept of God is deluded and you view God as a means to an end, then other God, you are not worshipping God. And therefore your mind will be attracted to different ways. If particular way you meditated or worship in a particular form, then somebody will say, oh, if you turn to Shiva, he will give you quicker. The Vishnu is little, he goes on reflecting whether he's give or not. Shiva is Bambola, you just immediately give him. Not only that, they begin to also come to a kind of a more negative worshipper of one particular form of religious ideal, begins to view another religious symbol as something negative. People begin to fight just on the basis of all of that. Lots of terrorism, etc. goes on because of that. And this has to be clarified in your mind. In the practical level, there are different aspects of God. a disciple is initiated into any mantra. You can have mantra of Goddess Saraswati, mantra of God of Lord Hanuman, Lord Ganesha. You can have mantra of Krishna, Rama, Shiva. Each deity is an aspect of the God. So through that aspect, you are worshipping the God, not someone limited. Otherwise, your mind will start saying, "Oh Ganesha, please tell your father, Shiva, what I want." That will be that's a tremendous error. The scriptures give stories of gods just like they were a human personality. But that's symbolic, that's mystical. To make your mind follow certain things that are so abstract. But you should not become completely deluded. You are not turning your mind to ordinary personalities in heaven. And heaven is not set up like the way politics is set up in the modern world. Very simple way to give it. Suppose you are worshipper of your father or your mother. And suppose you are, say, 12 sons in a family or 12 sons and sisters and brothers. Each one adopts a particular pose of father or mother. Father or mother have, say, many pictures. Each one wants to adore one particular pose. So you have adopted one pose and put it on the highest level and put other poses down. Same person, your own mother. One pose is at the high level, all other poses down. Your brother comes in and says, "Oh no, put this pose up." This will be exceedingly childish. But that's the predicament of people when they face the problem of many gods, many ways of worshipping. Not realizing you are worshipping the same absolute, same Brahman worshipped as Rama, as Krishna, as Shiva, as Christ, as Buddha. And why do you worship in different ways? Because mind has different formations. And you can turn to God according to your own inclination. Also, God is the source of all divine qualities. Sometimes you are attracted to compassion. Sometimes you are attracted to power that can dismantle anything that is negative. Then you worship Hanuman or that aspect of God that gives you a sense of immense power. Sometimes your mind is drawn to knowledge, literature. You turn to Goddess Saraswati. Sometimes you are turned to so differently, different tastes, different inclinations, but all are employed in a divine art to allow you to develop profound devotion. In the highly advanced state, you feel perfectly at ease. You can be in Shiva temple, enjoying Shiva mantras. Your own Ishta Devata may be Lord Vishnu. It wouldn't make any difference. So that's how the Hindu culture has been built up. People have many gods, and they are very happy. They go into any temple, and sometimes they begin to give their kirtans. You can be in a Rama temple and singing the kirtan of Krishna. Now look at Rama, he's smiling. And with this I conclude.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of spiritual growth. It's an honor to learn from the wisdom of Swami Jyotirmayananda. As we part for now, remember, the quest does not end. Take time to reflect on today's insights and integrate them into your life. Until next time, stay open, stay curious, stay present. The light within you is always shining.